A billionaire bleeding in the streets, a homeless man with nothing to lose. One saves the other, but what follows is a twist so shocking you won't believe it's possible. Secrets, betrayal, and redemption. This story will hold you till the last second. Don't even think about skipping. It was past midnight in Los Angeles. The city that never sleeps. For some, it was alive with lights and music. But for others, it was just another night of survival. On the corner of 8th and Main sat Daniel, once a dreamer, now just a shadow. His clothes were torn, his shoes worn out, and his only possession, a half-broken wristwatch that no longer ticked. Yet, Daniel held on to it, as if time itself might one day return to him. He was hungry, cold, and tired. He thought the night would pass like every other. But destiny had written something different. Just as he closed his eyes, the roar of an engine broke the silence. A black limousine sped into the alley, swerved dangerously, and screeched to a halt. The back door flung open, and a man stumbled out. His suit was torn, his face pale, and blood dripped from his arm. Daniel froze. A billionaire, right here, bleeding in the alley? Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Without a second thought, Daniel ran to him. "Hey, are you okay?" he shouted. The man tried to speak, but collapsed to his knees. Daniel tore his own shirt and pressed it against the wound. The billionaire gasped, whispering words that chilled Daniel to the bone. "They're after me. Don't let them find me." Daniel looked around. The alley was empty. "Who's after you?" he asked. But the man only shook his head. In that moment, Daniel, a man who had nothing, was protecting someone who had everything. And yet the billionaire's life now rested in his hands. Hours crawled by. Daniel kept the man hidden inside an abandoned building nearby. He found a bottle of water, gave it to him, and shared the only piece of bread he had. The billionaire stared at him in disbelief. "Why are you helping me?" he asked weakly. Daniel chuckled bitterly, because life is worth saving whether rich or poor. The billionaire extended a trembling hand. "James! James Carter." Daniel almost dropped the bread. James Carter. The name was everywhere. Headlines, magazines, television. He was one of the richest men in America. But tonight, he was just a broken man sitting on a cold floor, trusting a homeless stranger. As the night deepened, James whispered, "Daniel, if I don't make it, remember this name, Vault 7. It's under my company. You're the only one I trust now." Daniel blinked in shock. "Me? Why me?" James replied, his voice fading, "Because everyone around me wants my money. You wanted nothing. That makes you the only man I can trust." Daniel didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A billionaire, trusting him, the man society had already forgotten. At sunrise, the sound of engines echoed. Black SUVs rolled into the street. Men in sharp suits stepped out, scanning the area. Daniel's instinct screamed. They weren't here to save James. He hid him deeper inside the building. The men walked past, murmuring, "We need to find him before he talks." Daniel's heart raced. They were after James, not to protect him, but to silence him. For hours, Daniel stayed alert, shielding James with nothing but courage. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt a purpose burning inside him again. Days later, James recovered enough to stand. He returned with his personal guards, loyal ones. This time, Daniel didn't hide. James stepped out, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "You saved my life. Come with me." Before Daniel could refuse, he was taken to James's mansion, a world of marble floors, golden chandeliers, and endless hallways. For the first time in years, Daniel slept in a warm bed. He wore clean clothes, ate real food. But instead of joy, he felt unease. Why would a billionaire keep him close? Why trust him more than his own men? The answer came 3 days later. James walked in with a thick file and placed it in Daniel's hands. "Read it," he said. Daniel opened it, and his heart sank. It was his own name, his own photo from years ago. The file said he was once one of the company's top engineers, framed for fraud, erased from the system, abandoned by the world. Daniel staggered back. He remembered now the lies, the betrayal, the night he lost everything. And the man who orchestrated it all was the same executive now trying to kill James. James said firmly, "Daniel, they destroyed you to get to me. And now they're coming for both of us. But together, we can fight back." Daniel's fists clenched. For years, he thought he was worthless. But now, the truth burned inside him. He wasn't just a beggar. He was a man who had been stolen from. That night, Daniel made a vow. If he could save a billionaire with nothing but a torn blanket, he could reclaim his own life with truth. Together, James and Daniel worked in secret. They gathered evidence, exposed traitors, and confronted the board members who had sold their souls for power. The battle wasn't easy. There were threats, bribes, and even attempts on their lives. But Daniel had already lived through the worst. What more could the world take from him? In the final confrontation, James stood in front of the press, holding the documents Daniel had uncovered. "These men," he announced, "betrayed not just me, but this company, this nation, and innocent lives." Cameras flashed, reporters screamed questions, and for the first time, Daniel stood in the spotlight, not as a homeless man, but as a warrior of truth. Weeks later, the traitors were behind bars. James rebuilt his empire stronger than ever. And Daniel? He was no longer on the streets. James offered him a position, but Daniel chose something else. He started a foundation for the homeless, giving them what he once begged for: hope. As he stood before hundreds of people at the opening ceremony, he said, "The world once called me worthless. But remember this, sometimes the people with nothing end up teaching the world what it truly means to have everything." That night in Los Angeles, a homeless man saved a billionaire. But in truth, they saved each other. And sometimes, the most broken people carry the strongest souls. Daniel's story spread like wildfire. Some called it luck. Others called it destiny. But James Carter had only one word for it: a miracle. If this story touched your heart, imagine how many more lives it can inspire. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were in Daniel's place?